Welcome to the Tapestry Ministries podcast, Manna at the Tap. We are an online spiritual formation community offering daily spiritual nourishment to feed the soul. We call it Manna. I'm Gloria, your host, and it's Thursday, April 25th, 2024. The lectionary reading for today is from Psalm 22, a familiar psalm of lament. The opening verse is familiar. Jesus spoke it on the cross and addressed his Father. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from my cries of anguish? Listening to those words now that we are in the fourth week after Easter takes us back to Good Friday and Holy Saturday and the darkness and uncertainty of those days. Psalm 22 was not intended to be prophetic for Jesus to utter the words on the cross, but he did because they helped him when he felt alone and forsaken. This is a psalm of the lament of an individual who is in distress, speaking statements about humanity's hopelessness against the backdrop of God's goodness. Today's lectionary text, verses 25 to 31, though, marks a transition in the psalmist's journey. It's a shift from the weeping that lasted the night to the dawn that is breaking forth. The psalmist desires for the community to experience the same transformative power of a relationship with Yahweh, a relationship that is alive and grows as faith deepens. The resurrected theme is one of praise for all that Yahweh has done. And we sometimes wondered where God was in our suffering and the dark days of Good Friday when, like Jesus, we cried aloud, "Where are you, God?" But then somehow we find ways to remind ourselves of Yahweh and his faithfulness. We can see the transforming image before our eyes and hear as Jesus utters his final words on the cross. He called out to his Father and he committed his spirit into the care of his Father. Psalm 22 is not only about an individual lament, it also speaks to the collective experience of a community of sojourners. We're here to support, pray with, and be there for each other as we navigate the various emotions from suffering to times of praise and thanksgiving. Now, something is missing. And what is missing in this psalm is the answer to the why question. The psalmist and Jesus both asked, why? But that question remains unanswered and may never be answered. But we can continue despite that. So let's see from our lectionary reading how to experience this transformative power and move from lament forward to praise and thanksgiving. As stated, this psalm is for a community gathering for worship and a life filled with praise and thanksgiving. Celebration is not optional, it is required. We have to speak the praises of Yahweh with our lips. The gospel is that Christ died for our sins, and that was something we could not do for ourselves. And that is why we needed Good Friday to hear and see God turning aside as his son Jesus took the world's sins upon him. Jesus then exclaimed, "It is finished," and he died. But death had no power over him, and he rose on Easter Sunday morning. Psalm 22 is filled with emotions and yearnings for God to come through for us. The psalmist begins with the range of life from being a child on the mother's breast to being a full grown adult with trouble all around. Then we begin to notice and feel an inner movement that takes us to a new place, what one can call an unanticipated destination. We become sojourners on a pilgrimage from sorrow to joy, from desolation to hope, and from the cross to glory. This movement shifts us from lament to praise. And let's listen in as the community shares in this movement. All are welcome, including down and outers who can sit and eat at God's table. There is space for everyone on a hunt for God and praising Him. They can live it up from head to toe and never quit. People all over the earth are running back to God. Long lost families are falling on their faces before Him. God has taken charge. From now on, He has the last word. This is not temporary. It goes on for generations, and each generation will pass the word along from parent to child, and babies not yet conceived will hear the good news that God does what He says. Our God is a faithful God.